Kyle Busch and Joe Gibbs Racing are one of the greatest driver-team combos in NASCAR history. In the span of 15 seasons, they won well over 60 races, as well as winning 2 Cup Series championships. At this point, nobody envisioned him finishing his career elsewhere, but as we entered the 2022 season, the uncertainty of his future with the team kept building and building week by week. The end result would be one of his worst seasons with the team before he moved on. This is Bad Seasons Kyle Busch 2022. While the 2021 season was a good one on paper, by his expectations, it was a bad one. Missing out on the championship 4 is one thing, but entering the offseason, contract negotiations with the team were going to be the biggest story. What made the situation even worse was the announcement that Mars was going to be leaving NASCAR entirely. This type of driver sponsorship combo is extremely rare to find in NASCAR nowadays. Just like we remember Jimmy Johnson with Lowe's, Jeff Gordon with DuPont, and Dale Sr. with GM Goodwrench, we're gonna remember Kyle Busch and M&M's the same. But as for his future, the uncertainty of where he was going to drive in the near future was at an all-time high, and for most of the season, nothing was made official. Toyota and Joe Gibbs Racing were trying to find additional sponsorship, but at the end of the day, they couldn't get a deal done. It was a huge distraction for almost the entire season, and throughout all of it, Kyle Busch wasn't afraid to voice his displeasures publicly. But at the start of the 2022 season, it looked somewhat promising. After the first 4 races, he was sitting second in the overall standings, which included him nearly winning at Las Vegas despite crashing in practice. By the time we're a quarter into the season, he had already scored a victory, but in one of the craziest ways possible. I was at this race in person, and little did I know that I would be the witness to the last Cup Series victory for Kyle Busch and Joe Gibbs Racing as a duo. For the rest of the season, the team would show their inconsistency. As compared to 2021, it seemed like this team had took a step back at times.
Gets to the bumper of the 3, he gets loose.
Touched him. It looked like he got to the rear bumper of Austin Dillon and
Kyle
that turned
Busch
him sideways.
He is second guessing that decision right now.
Hey, can you talk about what happened with the 3, first of all, please? I don't know, he got loose.
Turn 11, stuck. I got no brakes, I got no turn, I got no drive. Half the racetrack.
I don't think that was braking issue there, Tony.
No, that wasn't a downshift problem. It wasn't a brakes problem. It was a got a little push from behind problem.
Little help. Very unfortunate, obviously, for Brad in the 6, but man, to happen right in the lap of the 18 of Kyle Busch, nowhere for him to go at all.
And Kyle's car has stopped at the entrance to the garage area. Apparently that's as far as it's going.
He's done.
I tell you what,
it won't turn no more. I'm just going to walk off.
well, I don't like that at all. He could have done a better job of getting that out of the way. Now it's in the way of the 24, just got out and walked off. I know the frustration and I get it, but you got to do a little better job than that.
Kyle Busch.
Whoa! That was big. Got loose off the corner. Had to get completely out of the gate. Oh, he's got right rear fire. Right rear down. Huge wreck. So Austin as Chastain hit him. Turns Chase Elliott around in the wall.
The team's inconsistency became apparent during the first half of the season, but at the very least during that time span, he was able to follow up a lot of these bad races with good ones. After the Darlington DNF, he finished 3rd at Kansas, and after the All-Star Race DNF and this early race spin in the Coca-Cola 600, he would finish runner-up in back-to-back races. Losing the inaugural Gateway race in the closing laps was very painful, but at least it seemed like this team was starting to hit its stride. Following this race, the exact opposite happened. They would not score another top 10 for most of the summer, and by the time that streak had ended, many had felt that his days at Joe Gibbs Racing were numbered.
And I think it's a perfect example of what those new tires versus old tires, Rowdy's going to sit there and get everything he can get out of it. He had more brake and more talent than what his tires had at that point.
Busch having to change an engine on that Skittles 18 Toyota. The official word from the team is they found something in the engine they didn't like. That's as specific as they would get with me. Kyle will have to start from the back. He did it last year, though, guys. Should be interesting to watch him climb through the field again this year.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and Kyle just in there way deep, gets spun out, Amarola on that curb, and then they make contact. So really,
Couple
two problems.
The one's like waiting, trying to say, go, come on, get it going. Eventually makes contact, and then everybody kind of piles in. Look at the 22 up in the air right there.
What happened? The street car's in the frame. The 18's already sideways.
Oh, a car spinning. Kyle Busch around on the back straightaway.
Straight. Good shape. Yellow's out.
He did an amazing job to save that. Everyone around him did an equally impressive job not to make contact.
24 hours ago right now, Denny Hamlin was celebrating in the Poconos, thinking he had won for a third time this year. Kyle Busch was second. It was a 1-2 finish for Joe Gibbs Racing. Then they found out their cars failed post-race inspection. They were disqualified. The first time this has happened at the Cup Series level since 1960.
Getting checked up. Big contact back there. J.J. Ailey's around the 10, the 2, hard into the wall.
Oh, goodness. Kyle Busch involved. Big damage on the 18 as well.
Big damage to the 18 car.
High hopes that he's on that, career longest streak, not finishing inside the top 10.
It looks like the left front tie rod's broken.
Oh, the 18 car, Kyle Busch is around. This looks down toward turn 1.
Take another look at it as you divide. I think maybe a little moisture or maybe just got loose, but watch this hit. That's a pretty solid hit. That could bend a suspension.
Entering the playoffs, they only scored 2 top 10s in the previous 11 races. Definitely not a whole lot of momentum going into Darlington, but once the race began, it was looking like they were about to score the first playoff win of 2022. Leading a race-high 155 laps, they seemed to have turned the corner instantly. What happened next led to some Kyle Busch fanatics accusing Joe Gibbs Racing of self-sabotage. The engine all of a sudden blowing up led to a DNF, and to follow up that race, a blown tire would lead to a second straight round of 16 race finishing below the top 20. If you paid close attention to the end of his regular season, you'd understand why this wasn't a surprise to some. A couple of days after this race, his future was made official. He would be driving for Richard Childress Racing, even offering his son Braxton Busch a contract as well. The Kyle Busch-Joe Gibbs Racing era was about to come to an abrupt end, and they could finally focus solely on racing. His future plans were a dark cloud throughout the entire season that hovered over everyone's heads, and you could make the case that it did impact on-track performance. Now that there were no more distractions, could Kyle Busch muster up enough points to advance to the round of 12?
Kyle Busch below the cut line to start the race. He was above the cut line.
All right, you're good down.
And that looks like
That's engine.
Yeah, I was going to say that's out of both the headers right there. So that does not look like, oh man, is that water I see pouring out?
Four tires. Oh.
4 tires. There's no 4 tires. Your man is not coming to see you, and you hear the crowd. You either love him or you hate him. You see the fans with the M&M's gear, the 18.
There's a lot of rowdy fans out there, but this is not what they wanted to see out of Kyle Busch. Out of the race car, out of the race, and more than likely, he's going to be out of the playoffs.
After all that they've accomplished over the years, it was disappointing to see the Kyle Busch-Joe Gibbs Racing era end with a round of 16 exit. The following race at Texas, he would DNF with a tire issue. Then at Las Vegas, when it was looking like he might be a contender towards the end of the race, a tire completely falls off after a pit stop under caution. And then you had what was the worst of these runs at Martinsville, where by the time stage 1 ended, he was 4 laps down. Phoenix would not only mark his final race with the team, but also, for the time being, the final race for the 18. His 2022 bad season stats are this: 1 win, 8 top 5s, 17 top 10s, an average finish of 16.7 with a total of 7 DNFs. Kyle Busch and Joe Gibbs Racing will go down as one of the greatest driver-team combos in NASCAR history, but the way it ended left a bad taste for a lot of Rowdy fans who cannot wait to begin a new era in 2023. Can Kyle Busch win a championship with RCR? Only time will tell. And once again, that'll do it for another video. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is Black Flags Matter. Catch you next time.